Hello everyone, welcome back to It's Current Year for another quick ladder multiplayer replay. Today we have myself playing as the vampire counts against the Greenskins, a bit of a Savage Orc themed build on Athel Tamara. Seem to be hitting this map a fair bit on ladder recently. We'll go through the armies just quickly. We'll have a look at my opponent's army to start with. As I said, a bit of a Savage Orc themed build. So we've got a front line of Savage Orc Biggins, pretty decent unit. Some anti-large, good damage output, good charge bonus. We've got the I believe the 8-pick loonies, which are the unbreakable night goblin, just anchoring the front line here. Behind it, we've got in the back row we have 3 Savage Orc Arrow Boys, as well as a nasty Skulker unit for just blocking down mainly enemy fast movers with the smoke bomb, that kind of thing. They're a good backline sweeper. They have a bit of armor piercing as well. So things like in this matchup, like Black Knights that can get in, even things like Direwolves and that kind of thing. They're good at warding them off and trapping them down. Savage Orc Arrow Boys don't need a lot of babysitting. They have actually quite good combat stats. Obviously, pathetic melee defense, but they actually have reasonable weapon damage and melee attack, so they actually ward off things like direwolves and even zombie summons quite quickly. For the big punch here, we have 2 units of stone trolls, so lots of magic resist and some missile resistance as well. Good damage dealers in the front, some armor piercing. Can be susceptible to terror and fear, but if you can keep them nice and tight with your leadership, then they can be sort of babysitted a little bit. The Black Orc Big Boss here, with he actually imparts if you see here on the tooltip, the immune to psychology debuff. So that's actually a really good inclusion with the stone trolls against the vampire counts, who do have a lot of sort of terror mechanics and leadership bomb type plays, as well as Skarsnik here, who has taken the fermented fungi and the spite of the bad moon debuff, which gives some armor piercing and some anti-large in a bit of an area of effect. And we also have the giant river troll hag, who has mither and also just a spirit leech to again slow down enemy fast movers, and also does a bit of a melee attack debuff in the front line. So pretty compact sort of formation here as far as Greenskins are concerned. I was pretty happy at first to not see any fast movers, because they can really overwhelm me with spider riders and that kind of thing, wolf riders. They're a very speedy faction. So over to me, over in the trees here, we have some direwolves, the dire pack. I was hoping to maybe catch something out in this little portion of the map. So we've got some direwolves in the dire pack around here. On the other side in the trees, we've got some blood knights and some black knights, hoping to make use of the terrain, move up and around the flanks, try and get it in and on behind the enemy's position. So for the front row, we have just zombies, stock standard, speed bump in the front row, just throwing the bodies in. I took some can wraiths. Not an abundance of magic damage. I know Fists of Gork can impart magic damage on greenskin units, but other than that, they're really good. Obviously, their magic damage will bypass the physical resistance of the Savage Orcs in the front row here. Some good armor piercing if I come up against Black Orcs, and obviously their own physical resistance is massive. 75% physical resistance. Obviously, a pretty small health pool and no armor, but they stay in the fight if you can protect them from magic damage a bit longer than you might think. We've got the Sternsman here in the middle, just to anchor the front line. Some spears just to clog things up, keep things moving around. I used 3 units of Fellbats just to screen out. And today I am going, not the most regularly picked, but I've gone with the Strigoi Ghoul King on his Terrorgeist, looking nice and mean up there. On the Ghoul King, I went both these items because they're quite cheap, and I figured against Greenskins, if I'm swooping down to do a bit of a strike on some leadership or something like that, it might be important. I took command of the Unliving, as well as Invocation of Nehek and a Spirit Leech, and obviously on the Terrorgeist he has his Scream ability. I also took what we like to call the Hobo Caster. So basically you just strip down a Necromancer just to have the regeneration in the front row. You can probably take that off as well, Curse of Undeath. I left the summon on him just to get through him. The Strigoi Vampire actually only has the Ghoul or Crypt Horror summon, so it's handy. I kept that on him just to have some vampires, and the Forbidden Rod just to buff my Winds of Magic. So that is my army, a wide or fairly standard vampire list, I guess. So we're cresting the hill here. We'll give it a bit of a faster play just to get things started. So I do send my bats out ahead just because I do want to see sort of if there's anything hiding here in the trees, just to keep my cavalry safe. Likewise with my dire wolves, I keep them pretty. Probably should have had them up moving around, but they get spotted, so I do move them up and around. I do see the fairly unprotected back row here, but obviously I'm sort of wary that they are Savage Orcs and that they aren't pushovers like the archers of other things. Happy to take the shots from that into the zombies. That's exactly what they're there for. Most of my infantry is shielded, and obviously the can rates have great physical resistance, so I'm not too worried about the shooting. The can rates get a Spirit Leech. It's a really good use of Spirit Leech. Magic damage does a lot of damage to these guys, and as you said, they don't have a big health pool. But now that the combat's starting, I do bring my bats in just to muck up a unit. I probably could have left them in the sky, to be honest. As I said, I wasn't that concerned about the shooting, given everything is shielded or zombies, and that's not really that big of a deal for us. So getting my can raids in the front here. I'm probably a little bit bunched up. I probably should have come around the flank a little bit here. I probably should have had something put in pressure here, even if it's just some spears to hold them in place. But I do reveal the dire wolves here, and I want to try and get the dire pack in. I'm just seeing where he's going to commit with his goon squad here before I commit with mine. You'll see in a second that I do summon. I'm lapping around on this side here, and obviously the cavalry are coming out here. I do summon a unit of Crypt Horrors here, but they get absolutely tanked here by the anti-large of the Savage Orc Biggins. I took that for granted. I should have been a bit more cautious there. I do get the Strigoi Ghoul King down. The Fermented Fungi goes down, but he's swept down to try and put some hurt into the Black Orc Big Boss, because obviously I want to try and remove him and remove the immune to psychology debuff that he grants the trolls. Frontline fight, obviously not going great for me. Savage Orcs are going to cut through undead infantry or the chaff infantry pretty quick, but I've got the dire wolves out. I have shut down the backline archers, so that's handy, so I can start to collapse into the back rows here. He gets another War down. I believe that's the second for the game, and my Strigoi Ghoul King is... I was a bit concerned here, but these guys are starting to rout off now, and thankfully the Black Orc Big Boss is routing as well. So there goes the anti sort of immune to psychology, and you notice here I have 10 stone trolls running here. Now I don't have anything really fast enough to take them, so I do want to pull my Strigoi Ghoul King off to bring him over. That is a massive investment there. That's a healthy unit, and they do regen, so bringing them off the board, and I will chase them basically all the way to the white line here with my Ghoul King to keep them off, because that is a very healthy unit of stone trolls, a massive loss. This flank's gone pretty well for me over here. I've wrapped up the infantry, and I am going to bring my can rates down. There's still a pretty healthy pocket of orcs and the night goblins here. The can rates are wailing away here, again getting through the savage orc biggin physical resistance. Throwing some fanatics out here, and I've got the Sternsmen basically surrounding Skarsnik, which is a fight that they will like. They regen as well. It has some regrouping infantry, which he probably needs to bring back in. I've got the Black Knights over here. I probably need to get the Blood Knights onto the Black Orc Big Boss, but there you go. 10 stone trolls off the board. He's got some archers in the trees here, but I'm not too worried about them. I send the can wraiths over there to deal with them. Actually, I believe I pull them back into the main fight here, and I send the Blood Knights over here to clean them off. So we're basically into the end game here. Most of my infantry is starting to crumble. I've got the dire pack, which is chasing off the giant troll hag. They're a good unit for dealing with. They actually punch above their weight against large targets, but they're going to escort her off the ground. This is a big mistake for me. The magic resist, and I saw this and I thought, oh yeah, armor piercing, that'll be good against stone trolls, and terror, I might be able to get a terror out, but they have a 70%. They have 70% magical resist. So these guys are doing nothing. They're just going to crumble. So that's a bit of a waste from me down this side. But my mobile threats, 40 Black Knights here. They're going to demolish these guys, even with their anti-large bonus. Skarsnik's holding things together reasonably well here. However, just the numbers are starting to take effect now. The can rates are going to wear down these Savage Orcs. The Night Goblins, 22 of them, they fight to the death, obviously, being unbreakable. I get my Blood Knights up around here. I'm not sure it's still going to be a great fight. Obviously, they are anti-large, but with the armor piercing of the Stone Trolls and Blood Knights without having a great armor piercing value themselves, they won't love this, but I thought they were weak. I can maybe rout them off, and it might tip the balance of power. But a big rear charge coming down here. I see Skarsnik, and I think about a breath attack, but I cancel it to come back over here, and these guys actually routed in the process of that, but I'd go ahead with it anyway because I figure I might as well shatter them. The Black Orc Big Boss here is he's on his last legs, and basically to finish the game here, a big dive bomb from my Strigoi Ghoul King, terror out Skarsnik. A Spirit Lich does go down on the Blood Knights over here because the Giant River Troll Hag came back. I'm not sure how she came back. Oh, there they are, the Dire Pack. I don't know what happened there. They lost their order. They might have gone chasing those Savage Orc arrow boys. But he does crumble the Blood Knights, but basically with everything starting to go down over here, we hit army losses, and there's just not enough left to combat what I have left, and it will end in a Pyrrhic victory for the Vampire Counts. So, a bit of a different... that's a really small Greenskin force. You usually come up against basically a 20 stack, and they overwhelm you with Spider Riders, Wolf Riders. I've even seen Squig Hoppers used relatively effectively in this match because they chew through the cheap infantry, and then even just normal Savage Orcs do pretty well in this matchup. But Savage Orc Big Guns are great units. They have a little bit of an anti-large bonus. Their physical resistance keeps them in the fight, and they pile up the kills. But again, you look at what they're fighting, it's not really that big of an investment for me. The Stone Trolls, getting that one unit of Stone Trolls off that was really healthy was a big win, and that can be sort of the two-edged sword of playing with Stone Trolls. Their missile resistance and their magical resistance keeps them out of harm's way, but you've really got to keep them in fights that they're winning. 1-to-1 in a losing fight, they break very quickly. So the inclusion of the Black Orc Big Boss is really good there because he does impart immune to psychology. So the terror, diving down with my Ghoul King, having the can rates in the front line who do cause terror, is a good way of mitigating that. But I would probably just wasn't wide enough. I think if he could have warded off my fast movers a little bit better with some of his own skirmishes, you probably don't need all of these to be Savage Orc Biggins. You can cut costs a little bit and have them as just regular Savage Orcs, and protect your backline with your own fast movers a little bit better. And Savage Orc Arrow Boys and Orc Arrow Boys actually have reasonably good armor piercing values for non-dedicated armor piercing skirmishes. And if they can sit and fire at the Ghoul King, at things like my Blood Knights, they actually do a lot more damage than you'd think initially. So, having them run off early was a good pickup for me, and they were probably left a little bit on their own with just the nasty Skulkers, or you could have just had a couple of nasty Skulkers babysitting them. But a good battle. Thank you very much for checking out the replay, and we'll see you again soon.